Right on Joy News Prime, Ghana's confirmed COVID-19 cases count now stand at 204 after 9 new cases from the Greater Accra region were added in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, there is massive support for government's enhanced testing and contact tracing exercise currently ongoing across the country. The lack of logistics is, however, said to be frustrating the effort.
My challenge is that we need the PPEs to work with. So this is the situation now.
There's no car available.
There's no car available, so we have to squeeze. Instead of social distancing, we are 3 on a row, which is not health advice.
And from home,
a philanthropic pastor who offered his 100-room hostel for use as a COVID-19 treatment facility has withdrawn the offer after protests from members of the community where the building is situated.
Don't take it.
Also in this bulletin, a porridge vendor meets an untimely death after she was run over by a vehicle while serving her customers.
And in business,
Minority in Parliament kicks against introduction of new cylinder recirculation margin on LPG by the National Petroleum Authority, describing it as insensitive.
This is not the time to introduce an increase, because they are introducing new taxes on us during this hardship of COVID-19. And that I'm saying that this is a government that is heartless.
I'm Israel Lai, anchoring from home. And remember, Joy News Prime is live on digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air.
And my name is Aisha Ibrahim. We're live from our studios in Kokomlemle in Accra on digital address G80992539 on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Please stay tuned in. Many thanks for choosing us. In our very first story, Ghana's COVID-19 case count has increased from 195 to 204 cases. This was after 9 additional cases, all from the Greater Accra region, were added in the last 24 hours. 4 of them have no history of travel nor contacts with a confirmed case. Another 4 have no travel history but have come into contact with people in Ghana who have since tested COVID-19 positive. The last case is said to have traveled to Ghana from Benin in the last 14 days. The COVID-19 deaths are still 5. Now, just so that you know, all the confirmed cases, we have 79. Those who are in mandatory quarantine, we have 79. None of them has recovered. We have 31 of them who have been discharged but being monitored, and we'll do the test again in 2 weeks to ensure that they are all safe and responding to treatment. We have 48 people. None of them is in critical condition. But if you go to Tamale, we have confirmed 10 confirmed cases, none of them recovered, and 10 of them responding to treatment. None of them is in critical condition, and no death has been recorded in Tamale. Now, let's look at the regional breakdown. In Greater Accra, we have 183. In the Ashanti region, we have 10 cases. In the Northern region, we have 9 cases, and 1 each in the Upper West region and Eastern region. Look at the routine surveillance. The Ghana Health Service is embarking on some routine surveillance, and through the routine surveillance we have 115 cases from there. We have 3 from that number who have recovered, 18 of that have been discharged, and then 87 of them are responding to treatment. We have 2 in critical condition and 5 deaths so far. Now, there's massive enthusiasm and support on the ground for government's enhanced testing and contact tracing exercise currently ongoing across the country, with nurses and some assembly members helping to identify screen residents in their localities. Head of the health desk, Fred Smith, visited Weijagbawe municipality, where thousands of residents are to be tested for COVID-19. He, however, reports the enthusiasm is waning due to lack of logistics.
Scores of field officers being deployed to the 14 electoral areas under the Weijagbawe municipality of the Greater Accra region, one of the major hotspots for COVID-19. The deployment is boosted by the voluntary inclusion of assembly members of all the electoral areas.
Even though our lives are at risk, but we as assembly members have also taken it upon ourselves to support the efforts of our municipal chief executive and the Weijagbawe Municipal Assembly to do the contact tracing, so that within a very short time we'll be able to know people who have had contact with persons that have been confirmed positive, and also to help prevent the community spread.
Be on the front line as an assemblywoman, it's my responsibility to help the municipality to go around and see whatever is going on, to help the people around to solve and for this issue to be solved.
These field officers are visiting every home and taking samples from every one of the 120,000 residents for coronavirus tests.
It's been good so far. We started for the contact tracing, they started even far before this week, about a week or two before this week, but the testing, we are testing all residents within the municipality. That started on last Tuesday.
But the exercise is hampered by the lack of logistics.
Max, as I'm going out, I don't even have a max. You heard me telling them that if they don't get me a max, I'm not going out. Because as what I'm doing, I'm even risking my life, right? And I don't have the materials to work. How do I work?
My challenge is that we need the PPEs to work with. We are willing to do the work as health workers, but the PPEs to work is a problem. We know they are doing donations to other bigger facilities. So we at the smaller facilities are begging with the government that they should bring it to us so that we can also wear them to go and work with. That's my challenge.
There's total disregard for social distancing, not because they want to, but due to the lack of vehicles to take care of all of them.
So this is the situation now.
There's no car available.
There's no car available, so we have to squeeze. Instead of social distancing, we are 3 on a row, which is not health advice. And I just
we need more cars.
We need more cars. We need enough PPEs. Yeah, we are exposed. We are exposed. Yeah, we are working in the sun. No instant. We don't know what is up.
They beat you yesterday.
Yesterday too, I was assaulted. I was physically assaulted by a guy.
The lack of vehicles and other logistics are among the challenges facing the Weijagbawe municipality during the special exercise. Municipal Director Mercy Kwansa
moved to the field. Yesterday we had 38 teams. And then they also had a risk. But today, I think the logistics came in late, and we were left with some few nose masks to be given to the teams.
For now, these field officers say they remain committed to the task, but need the officials to supply the logistics and on time. For Joy News, Fred Smith, Weija.
And we've been trying to make contact with some officials in government to respond to this issue of the lack of PPEs. We have been unsuccessful so far. But joining me via Skype now is the Deputy General Secretary for the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Titus Bayo. He's also a member of the Infectious Diseases Committee of Ghana. Thank you very much, Dr. Bayo, for making time to speak with us. Now, what is the challenge with the availability of PPEs to health facilities from where you sit?
Good evening, and thank you for having me. Good evening to our viewers. From where we sit, we keep getting complaints from the health facilities, especially the emergency point in some of the hospitals and polyclinics, that they do not have the adequate numbers of the PPEs. And simple things like surgical masks, the N95 masks, and some other PPEs are not reaching there. And I think we have had concern to complain of this to the ministry. And I think that is one of the reasons why they launched the number that frontline workers should call. So I'll encourage everybody to give that feedback so that the ministry will know that that is really the reality on the ground, because a lot of complaints we are getting across the country is showing that where it is needed most, there do not appear to be enough of the PPEs. All right, you talk about where it is needed most, but we know about the issue, or that the most critical place where these PPEs are needed will be the treatment facilities. Do the treatment facilities or treatment centers have the same challenge? For the few that we have checked, the treatment centers don't appear to have that challenge. But from the medical point of view, we think in as much as the treatment centers need it, the emergencies need it even more. And this is so because at the treatment centers, if you're a healthcare worker, it's perhaps one of the safest places to be. Because at the treatment center, the diagnosis is confirmed. You know you are dealing with a case of COVID-19. You go in with all the necessary precautions. Now, at the emergency centers, you have people coming in that you do not know who has it and who do not. And that is when I think we need protection. That's when health workers are most vulnerable. So if you walk into the emergency of Ridge Hospital, Kolebu Teaching Hospital, the 37 Military Hospital, any polyclinic, these are the places where most people will first report to. And this is where the diagnosis will be made before the patient is sent to the treatment center. So as much as it's important to make sure that the treatment centers have the PPEs, it is equally important for the safety of the healthcare worker to ensure that the minimum required at the emergencies and outpatient departments is also available. You make a great point, Dr. Bayo, but I am just imagining that could it be that because there aren't enough PPEs to go around, the authorities are deciding that let's take care of the treatment centers first, prioritize the treatment centers, and then make some available later for these other health facilities, which are also frontline and also need them? That is not the indication we are picking up. Because when we speak to the interministerial team members and the response team, what we hear is that they have deployed as many PPEs as possible. But when we get to the ground, the story appears to be different. I do not think that if you look at the number of treatment centers we have, they are not enough to consume over the 10,000 or 5,000 PPEs that have been distributed. And PPEs like the simple surgical masks or N95 should be available at all the emergencies. So there appear to be some missing link between the distribution and its final availability to the health worker at the front line. And so we would use this medium to appeal to all managers of the system, heads of various facilities. If they have received these things, indeed, they should make them available. If they haven't, then they should make the necessary report to make sure that our health workers are safe. It cannot be that we would send all the PPEs to the treatment centers. If you take a treatment center like Ridge Hospital, it has only 4 beds. And so, but people have to make the diagnosis and bring the cases there. If you take the Gan East, that is where the beds are more. And I do not think all the PPEs have been sent there. So definitely there must be PPEs at the emergency units. If not, then we are jeopardizing our fight, in the sense that if these health workers who would help make the first diagnosis get exposed, very soon we will not have enough of them to cover the emergencies. And then when we really get higher number of cases, we will struggle to cope in terms of human resource. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Titus Bayo, and he is Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. Back to you, Aisha, in the studio.
And the minority in Parliament has described as inadequate government's allocation of $700,000 to directly support households affected by the coronavirus pandemic. The amount is included in a $35 million World Bank loan approved by Parliament on Wednesday to support government's $100 million COVID-19 emergency preparedness plan. Deputy Minority Leader James Aveji is of the opinion that the affected households deserve a lot more.
$100 $700,000, which converts to almost around 4 million Ghana cedis. I don't know what that money can do for the household people who will be affected or who are affected by this coronavirus. If you are borrowing, first of all, the president made an announcement giving hope to Ghanaians that $100 million have been put aside to fight the pandemic, not knowing that money is not available. It is only yesterday that they brought a loan facility of $35 million from the World Bank and the IMF to fight the pandemic, which we approved yesterday. Now, this morning, I made a press briefing to ask the president that, first of all, he should have told Ghanaians that that $100 million is not available. They are not looking for it. But he created an impression, giving hope to Ghanaians that the money was available. Now, you are also preventing people not to be infected. So you ask them to stay home, locked down. These people are people who live on daily income, people who go to work on daily basis and get money to feed themselves. You have locked them up now at home. They don't have any way of going out to go and do their by day or sell and make money. Now you are allocating $700,000 to provide for those people, to support them for the loss of income because they are home for the 2 weeks. Yet you are allocating over $7 million for the contact tracing of people who are affected.
So for you, out of the $35 million, how much should have been allocated, for example, to households in order to support them if you say the $700,000 figure is too small?
Oh, we are saying that they have the data on the number of people who are affected. And if you take the whole country into consideration, or the places that have been locked down, Accra and the environs in Kumasi, we are saying that 700,000 is woefully inadequate, comparing it with the 7 million, over 7 million for the contact tracing.
And how much will be allocated? Well, probably, is that same data based on where they are throwing out the $700 million figure? And
it's not $700 million.
$700,000. And they've probably done their mathematics and come to that conclusion.
Well, we think that that is woefully inadequate. If they think that they can go and share $700,000 to all Ghanaians who are affected by the disease, so be it. But we think that that money is woefully inadequate.
The Deputy Minority Leader has also accused government of not showing enough urgency with the introduction of the Coronavirus Alleviation Program Bill to Parliament for approval. The program will allow for the disbursement of a 1 billion cedi stimulus package to Ghanaians.
Reducing the cap, the ceiling of the stabilization fund from $300 million to $100 million. So there is $200 million available. So if you convert it into cedi, it's over 1 billion Ghana cedis. So the Minister of Finance says that they are going to use 1 billion Ghana cedis for the companies that are affected. Now, it was Monday, 4 days today, that the Minister came to the House to announce this. Companies are not working. And if even that one, our issue is that it should not be only companies that are affected. Again, an allocation can also be made from that angle for the household. So we are saying that there is no urgency on the minister of that. You came to the House Monday, 4 days today. Why can't you come to the House and bring that program for members of Parliament to see how you are going to disburse the 1 billion? Who are the beneficiaries? Which company are going to benefit? And then if you are giving money to the household, how much percentage you are giving to the household? All those issues must come, but the minister is not coming. We have only today, tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday we are rising. So we are calling on the minister to urgently come to the House and bring that program so that we can approve it for Ghanaians to take something and live on.
Minorities raising red flags over the appointment of the Board of Trustees for the COVID-19 National Trust Fund. The bill setting up the fund was laid in Parliament on Wednesday, and the House is debating it for approval. Member of the Constitution Committee, Bernard Ahiafo, says it's out of place for the President to appoint the board before Parliament legally establishes the fund.
Looking at clause 6 of the bill will be establishing a governing body of the fund to be known as the Board of Trustees, appointed by the President, and is the composition is also stated. Mr. Speaker, we've all heard the announcement that the President has already appointed a chairperson of constituted a board and appointed the chairperson. Mr. Speaker, we all know that you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand as nihili fit. If the law is not in place, what then is the basis of the president constituting a board and appointing the chairperson of the board? So, Mr. Speaker, this bill is just calling on the House to legalize the illegal act of the president.
But Speaker Professor Michael Kay says the president's announcement was just an expression of intent.
That is an expression of intention. That is an expression of intention. Nothing has been established so that you can report that has been established on nothing. The president is entitled to say, I am going to have a particular board established, and I'm taking legal steps to establish it. When I finally do, I propose that these will be in charge, and that will also follow. You are out of order. Say something else.
A philanthropist who offered his 100-room hostel as a coronavirus treatment center has withdrawn the offer after protests by members of the community where the building is located. Bishop Gideon Titiofe of the Pleasant Place Church had hoped his building would make a huge difference in the efforts to contain the pandemic.
That with where we are now in Ghana, the COVID-19 crisis, we should make a contribution, and we thought that the place should be available as an isolation center for Tema West. Has offered me, it's amazing, and if this nation is in crisis, I must give back something to the nation that made me. Ghana is a great nation, and every well-meaning Ghanaian must come on board to contribute our quota in helping government solve this COVID-19 problem.
Residents in the vicinity where the building is sited at Tema Community 18 would, however, not want to have anything to do with COVID-19 in their neighborhood and have been protesting. Their fears the virus could spread into the community if the patients are accommodated there. This is despite assurance from experts that the residents have nothing to worry about. The residents massed up in front of the facility on Thursday to drive home their point. Efwa Evans Chinri was there for Joy News.
Let's wait and see. You have been reassured. Yes, please.
The man, we have been reassured by the MP, by the MP, not this man, by the MP. Yes, and we confronted the man ourselves.
Anger and confusion. The look on the faces of residents here at Tema Community 18. These residents say they will not rest until something is done about the situation. Here's one of them.
2 days ago in the evening, found it on Facebook of a post by Reverend Titiofe that he's giving this facility that you see here to be used as isolation center. And knowing all the issues with this COVID-19 disease, we were a bit alarmed. So yesterday in the morning, we met him here.
Okay.
We engaged him, and he says, okay, he will consult the minister about it, because prior to this, we believe there should have been a community engagement, which wasn't done. Yesterday, during the daytime, our guys here were on guard, looking at what's happening. Then we found out that some doctors and nurses came around, they left. Nobody was engaging us anymore. But this dawn, we heard that the place will be handed over to the ministry. So it was like all that we said yesterday had fallen on deaf ears. And looking at the fact that even the WHO accepts that this sickness under certain conditions can be airborne. And the facility itself is located within a community with all these people. I mean, even a properly designated isolation center, people are escaping from there. If somebody escaped from these gates, it's like anybody within the community. And also looking at the seriousness of the disease, we are of the view that this cannot be used for isolation center. It can be used for any other purpose, but not for an isolation center.
Ishmael Olenu is a caretaker here. He says the facility will rather be used as a residence for doctors and nurses and not as isolation center, as it's been claimed by the residents.
This morning I came here and I saw that there were a whole lot of people around, and their concern was that we are giving our facility for an isolation center. And I've been trying to calm them down, to tell them that it is not an isolation center. None of them was ready to listen until the MP of the area came, Honorable Carlos Ainkra, to assure them that we didn't give the place to them to use it as an isolation center. Rather, what they had wanted to use the place for is to keep doctors and nurses that are traveling from far to come and take care of patients. So we never intended giving the place for an isolation center. We were just trying to give help.
Right after this interview, the people approached Mr. Olenu and tried to attack him for saying the building would be used for other purposes. Residents here are not practicing social distancing. Is it because they are angry, or they care less about the possible implications this might have on their health?
Don't take it.
Well, Bishop Gideon Titiofe has since withdrawn the offer. In a statement released to the media, he promised to offer some other kind of help instead. I'll share the statement with you. It has come to my attention that the residents close to the facility I offered the government to be used as part of our nation's effort to fight COVID-19 are protesting against the decision. While I believe that determining the risk associated with the usage of the facility must be the work of experts, I respect the rights of my neighbors to express their concerns in any way they deem fit, even though I thought the best approach would have been to speak with the Tema West Public Health Directorate for advice. I wish to assure my cherished neighbors that the offer was done in good faith. However, in the spirit of good neighborliness, I have decided to offer other forms of assistance in the fight against COVID-19. And he concludes, God bless our homeland Ghana, and it's signed by citizen Gideon Titiofe.
And still to come in this bulletin, porridge vendor meets an untimely death after she was run over by a vehicle while serving her customers. There is more when we return from the break. Time now for business, and Sandra Apeno is here with the very latest. Hi, Sandra.
Hello, Aisha. A lot of controversy surrounding the new levy on LPG by the NPA.
There's been some withdrawal.
Yes, the fuel marketers margin, we understand, and it's not official yet, has been withdrawn, but that of the LPG, which is 13.5 per litre, Ghana cedis per litre on LPG still stands, and we have a lot in business on that.
Right, take it away, Sandra.
All right, celebrating 25 years of joy. My name is Sandra Esinam Apeno. As always, I'm here for business. The minority in Parliament has kicked against the introduction of a new levy known as the cylinder recirculation margin on LPG price builder by the National Petroleum Authority. The downstream regulator yesterday directed industry marketers to start charging 13.5 pesewa on each kilogram of LPG effective April 1. But speaking to parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, minority spokesperson on energy Adam Mutawakilu described the action as insensitive, especially at a time when Ghanaians are bearing the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic.
In this country, as if they are not satisfied, they went ahead and revised fuel, what we call the fuel markup margin, increase it by 50% from 3 Ghana pesos per litre to 4.5 Ghana pesos per litre. This is so clear that this government is pretending to love the people of Ghana, but actually they don't harvest at heart.
So for you, these margins will negatively impact people, you would say? Some say they are virtually minimal.
You are not talking of, we are talking per liter, and we are talking per kilogram. We are not talking in terms of one volume being this. We are talking the more, if you consume 2 kilograms, you are paying 27 pesos. If you go in for 5, you are paying over 60 pesos. And every peso counts. 2, you are not going to consume it once and for all. You will continue to consume it. So this is not the right time.
So for you, in the light of COVID-19, increases shouldn't have happened, or probably the other way around.
This is not the time to introduce, one, an increase, because they are introducing new taxes on us during this hardship of COVID-19. And that I'm saying that this is a government that is heartless. It doesn't have the people at heart, because this is the time people are losing income, because most of the Ghanaians are daily income earners.
Meanwhile, the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, Duncan Amoah, has described MPA's move as illegal. He said the MPA failed to engage stakeholders before the implementation and has therefore advised consumers to keep their receipts for further refund. Duncan Amoah spoke to Emmanuel Abuaji Uyafe earlier on the marketplace.
Emmanuel, it clearly defeats the whole purpose of the cylinder recirculation program. It cannot be said that even before you think of rolling out nationally, the monetary consideration is going ahead of everything. We would have wished to see how the CRM would even work across the country, how many of the bottling plants you've been able to erect, how far you are able to serve Ghanaians before you even talk about some of these issues as money. Unfortunately, it looks as though right from the outset, we are already defeating the whole essence of the cylinder recirculation by putting this money ahead of every other thing. It cannot be said, Emmanuel, that you are already for charging Ghanaians for a certain service that they are not using. You cannot charge people for a cylinder recovery margin at a time when they are still using their own bottles. No branded bottles are in the system to be given to Emmanuel if he went to the market today to refill his bottle. Yet you are charging them for a certain recovery. What are you taking those monies for, and for what services particularly? Again,
but the MPA has... Duncan, the MPA has done some pilots in this regard. Don't you think it's setting down these monies to be able to
Emmanuel, pilots are essentially meant for specific duration or specific location. You cannot do a pilot in, say, a community and then slap levies nationally that everybody should pay for the pilot that you have not even concluded. That clearly is not only illegal, but it is ill thought through.
In other news tonight, the receiver for some defunct financial institutions, Eric Nana Nipa, has begun the second round of payment to depositors of defunct savings and loans and microfinance institutions through bonds. This was after it completed the first batch of cash payments. George Wefe has more in the following report.
According to the notice issued by the receiver, Eric Nana Nipa, the payment began today and will be done through Consolidated Bank Ghana. The receiver had earlier indicated that the first round of cash payment will be capped at 70,000 Ghana cedis, while the remaining will be done through a bond payment issued by government. The notice from the receiver also adds that the bond, which is backed by government, is worth 4 billion Ghana cedis and will be a 5-year paper but zero-rated. The first payment for this bond will be done in March 31, 2020, and after that, some payments will be made every 6 months. The receiver is hoping to carry out some 10 equal installments. This is more of a paper that has been guaranteed by government, and some gradual payments will be made at a certain time. Consolidated Bank is expected to open a non-interest-bearing account for those claims that have been validated. Receiver Eric Nana Nipa has maintained that they are committed to paying everyone.
They surely will get all their monies as determined and instructed by the president. We have made full provision for this. And within a month, not later than end of March, they will be fully paid, those whose claims have been validated. So I would ask for some restraints and they exercise some patience.
The receiver also revealed that as at the end of March 31, 2020, it has paid 920 million Ghana cedis, after some 1 billion Ghana cedis was set aside for this cash payment. It's now left with about 80 million Ghana cedis to be paid to those depositors whose claims have been validated but are yet to receive their monies.
GOIL Ghana has announced a 10% reduction on fuel at the pumps. Details plus more in the business news summaries.
Consumers of petroleum products will from today, April 2, witness a drop in fuel prices at the pumps as GOIL Ghana announces a 10% reduction. According to the National Petroleum Authority (NPA), the price of gas has also recorded a significant reduction, with checks by the authority also indicating that fuel market margin still remains at 3 Ghana pesos. The reduction in fuel prices, however, comes at a time when the NPA has introduced a 13.5 pesos cylinder investment margin to help the liquefied petroleum gas marketing companies offset aspects of the cost involved in procuring and branding cylinders for the cylinder recirculation module. The Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, says it is highly disappointed in the Bank of Ghana after it refused to grant its members loan payment deferment amidst global coronavirus economic crisis. President of GUTA, Joseph Obeng, says members of the association since the outbreak of the virus have constantly complained about the lack of financial support from both government and the banks, especially the mode of repayment of loans. He added the pandemic has crippled most businesses and it will take the assistance of the banks with loan facilities to survive.
And that will be all for the first part of business. My name is Sandra Esina. I'm back after 8 p.m. with more business news. But do stay tuned because show business will be up next.
All right, so coronavirus has not only dominated world news, it is knocking the heads of 2 African presidents together. You watch this.
We must minimize physical contact with other people and encourage the elbow greeting rather, which is this, rather than shaking hands.
I'm not shaking hands, because you remember I told you shaking hands. They say you are dying to shake hands. I don't know why you are dying to shake hands. Dying to shake hands, and if they don't shake hands, they hit elbows. I don't want anybody to hit me with the elbow. Elbow for what? These are idiotic things.
All right, so it's a nice way to ease into. Aisha and Becky, how would you want to do it? You want to do the elbow, or how do you want to do it?
I don't know. You know, I like touching. So
stay there.
So this
Becky, stay where you are.
This coronavirus has affected me a lot. I don't have the chance to go to, all the shows that I want to go to, and it's very sad. I'm very sad. So is Noella Wiala. Yeah.
What she said.
Well,
we're not in normal times.
I know.
Should know that.
I understand, and so she's been sharing with us how she's coping and what she expects.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there.
It has affected me big time because I was supposed to be out there by now rehearsing with musicians, getting ready for my tours, and I should have been performing by now. In fact, all my 52 to 53 gigs this year, touring, they are cancelling a few as the month goes by. For March, it's all gone. April, if this pandemic is not out of the way and everybody's going back to doing their normal thing, I think I'm going to get a lot of cancellation as well. And so I'm now down to 40 something shows, and I just pray. I pray that, you know, this disease, this pandemic, coronavirus, goes away, and so that we can all get by. If not, we are losing out, especially we those that we get a lot of gigs to play, especially abroad, touring internationally. From 50 something, now it's getting down to 40 something. But that shouldn't be my worry, really. If I'm not alive, how will I even go and perform? So the most important thing is we should all stay home. That's why I'm home. And when I'm bored a bit, I just, you know, pick up my guitar, strum some few songs, and this is actually the time I'm writing new songs, which some of them are being inspired by this situation at the moment. And yes, we're all praying. Once there's life, there'll be more gigs. So, yeah.
Noella, we are like everybody.
I don't like her choice of music.
Why?
Because it's actually.
Oh, she does. She does.
She has a good voice, and in as much as I share in her plight that, of course, we're losing in a lot. If you have a lot of shows to perform abroad and you're going through this, she's going to lose huge sums of money. Yeah. But I think we should be doing some more lively music that will put us, you know, make us alive. Yeah. And we're not going anywhere. We're staying alive. We're ending Corona.
We are staying
together.
alive. We are. But Aisha, can you
because
put the Pepe?
As for Aisha and Becky, as for the frustrations, many people are frustrated. Especially those who can't get to see their boyfriends and girlfriends.
Exactly.
Like me,
and I'm not mentioning names.
Israelite, can you hear the Pepe? Can you guys hear the Pepe?
Tell us about the Pepe.
Let's hear the Pepe.
Wait.
I have put 11 pepper inside. Oh, this is 14.
But I don't hear any pepper inside. That's why.
You don't have to hear it.
Did you hear the Pepe? Yes, Let's just pause there. But let's move on. Have you downloaded TikTok? Israelite, do you have TikTok?
I think
I have TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
I have TikTok.
I was going to do that.
Please stay where you are.
It's a great site. I mean, the craze is so much that. But hold on. You know who introduced it to me?
No.
Guys, you know who introduced it to me?
No. Louisa?
There was a Chinese who came to the office.
Israel, don't come close to us. Stay where you are. But there's a lot going on TikTok, and you know, you guys, if you're not on TikTok, our celebrities are on TikTok, and they've been doing lots of things. Let's see it.
Brush my teeth every morning, spit it out, I go like this in the mirror, and I lean forward and I pause. And I say these words, pretty.
Why you, hello? Which bank account are you using?
Okay, I use Skybank and Diamond Bank.
Oh, Skybank and Diamond Bank. So you can talk. You have been hearing me and you will fall from that sky. Diamond, Dawagon Weber, idiot. Nonsense. So you can talk and you kept me quiet.
Excuse me, miss. Are you currently dating someone? Yes, but they live in another nation. What nation? My imagination.
are you ever going to marry a nice man like Felix, huh?
Which one is it, Mom? Marry a nice man or someone like Felix?
If you were my wife, I would put poison in your coffee.
If you were my husband, I'd drink it.
Baby, come give me something, oh.
I'm a savage, yeah. Classic, bougie, ratchet, yeah. Sassy, moody.
Coronavirus! TikTok, Jimmy, Jimmy, Baby, Jimmy, Leaco. Jedena, Adi, and I live by, a young time, Jack and kind of baby, Moonjay, and Jimmy, Leaco. That's a Lina, Patty. Love you all.
You too, Lydia.
I
was saying, you're joining TikTok. No, Brother is on TikTok. You should be on TikTok as well. But let's congratulate.
Never a dull moment on TikTok.
Yeah, no dull moment. Let's congratulate Jackie Appiah. She went to do some donation at the Tesco Market, and let's see how it went down.
You come and wash your hands. Try as much as possible 7 pounds and cap. Very, very dangerous. Person forward and that's a person who's easier. Now do I say I choose.
All we have to do is stay safe. Before Preste, Babago come safe.
Put your hands to love one another. Rub it, palm against palm, intertwining together. Like this. You can use the tip of your fingers to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did 1, 2, 3.
Everybody live in isolation.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Find very hard to find solution. We pray for the souls we lost and the heroes who fought. It's time to love one another. It's time for the world to come together. No black, no white, no yellow, cause nobody is promised tomorrow. We will survive. We will survive. Together, you and I.
That's very good. God bless her. And of course, Baby Jed did sing some kind of. We need more of that. John Dumelo has done it. I mean, we need the celebrities and all. I mean, all the people who can do it should donate to help solve or contain this coronavirus outbreak.
So before I go, I think my time is up, right?
Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Now to the rest of our stories on the local front. And in the last few hours, the Ghana Armed Forces has been responding to concerns of military brutality on civilians in enforcing President Akufo-Addo's restrictions imposed to contain the spread of COVID-19. So many worrying videos of the police and military assaulting the citizenry who are defiant of the president's directive. Though Colonel Agriquashi describes some as old videos not related to the current lockdown, he says the incident in Tafo in the Ashanti region, where a military man is seen exchanging blows with a resident, will be probed. He spoke with Evans Mensah on PM Express.
But I think that video is not related to the exercise.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a new thing. It's an old video. And that is where some of us worry is coming from. Why all of a sudden people are pushing out all these old videos into the system? Why are they trying to cause fear and panic among the populace?
On this particular video, when we saw it, we sent our reporter to go out and try and do some verification. Stay with me, Colonel Agriquashi. I want to bring in my reporter in the bonus. We sent out to try and verify this. Nuruddin is on the line with us. Nuruddin, what did you find when you tried to verify this particular video?
Well, I spoke to some residents to find out exactly whether that incident occurred. And some of them told me that it happened this morning. It's been very difficult getting those who witnessed the incident, but those that I spoke to who live around said it happened this morning, and that the guy was asked wherever he was going by the military man, and he couldn't give any reason reasonable answer to the question that the military man asked him. So they asked him to go and join some other two guys who were standing in front of the church. And so he went there. I mean, it is not clear what happened. I mean, what exchanges happened between the military man and then the guy. So there was some kind of, exchange of hands, blows, or So the guy took the hill, and then military man chased him. And we understand he was caught by the military man and later was taken away from the scene.
So we saw in the video that the military officer sort of attempted to run after him. The eyewitnesses say that this individual was arrested.
Exactly what they told me. I mean, they said the military man went after him and then caught him and brought him back to the same area, and they took him away. Actually, we have not been able to find out exactly where they took the man to. But all we know, all we gathered from the scene was that he was taken away from that particular area.
Okay.
The Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice is concerned about police and military brutalities during this lockdown period. A statement from the Charge Commissioner, Joseph Whittal, reads, the Commission commends the initiative so far taken by government in combating the COVID-19 pandemic in the interest of public health and public safety. The initiative has culminated in the enactment of the Imposition of Restrictions Act, which is anchored on Article 21(4)(c) and D and E of the 1992 Constitution and gives legal effect to the restriction. The Commission has, however, noted with concern media reports alleging excessive use of force and practices bordering on torture meted out to some persons who are reported to have breached the President's directive. Notwithstanding the legal and constitutional basis for the lockdown and restriction or curtailment of movement, the media reports alleging excesses of caning, beating of persons who are deemed to have breached the lockdown directive should be of great concern to the entire nation. And Shraj recognizes that the country finds itself in an emergency situation requiring the curtailment of certain fundamental rights and freedoms. However, it must be equally emphasized that in the event of an emergency like what persists in Ghana, human dignity cannot be curtailed or traded off per Article 15(1) of the Constitution. And joining us for more on the Charge statement is Charge boss Joseph Whittal. Good evening to you. Many thanks for your time. You must be very alarmed by this situation resulting in the issuance of this statement.
This has been how things have happened in the past. But this time, we want it to be different. We are dealing with a lockdown, and we expect that the police and military, that is the task force, should ensure that they go along with the letter and spirit of the Constitution. The power given to them is for them to ensure that the lockdown works, which is in the interest of all of us. But the report that we are getting definitely gives us serious concern. Middle-aged women, elderly women, men, journalists, even authority, the DCE was beaten up. We need to be very careful how we exercise power. And that is why the Commission came out with a statement to signal the High Command that the professional standards and behavior of their staff needs to be looked to, and they need to strengthen the areas of weakness. If they think that it's normal for when you meet somebody who seems to have breached the rule or the lockdown regulations, you should go ahead and beat. That is an area we should be very careful with, because it is a legal power that has been given to them. And they can only arrest and put the person before court and nothing more. They cannot take the law onto their own hands and mete out instant justice as they think it should be.
But the police and military from the onset made it clear that it was a humanitarian exercise, but also cautioned that some form of force would be applied in the extreme situations where people defy the orders with impunity. Should we blame the security agencies entirely for this situation, or the citizens who are extremely disobedient to the directives of the president?
Now, let me put things in perspective. The power to use reasonable force is not new by the police. It's not new. It's been in Act 30, it has been there. Now, when they are to cause any arrest and you resist, and you put up some attitude, they are supposed to use reasonable force to ensure that you are brought before either the police station or a court. So that is understandable. That reasonable force is not the same as infringing on the dignity of the people. It is not the same as beating and caning and kicking and doing that. That's not the reasonable force. The reasonable force is expected for you to be arrested and lawfully brought before a court of competent jurisdiction or before the police station where you are to give a statement or the other. But not what we have seen in some of the media reports and video footages that have come out. That is something that we need to decry.
I'm grateful that you joined us. Joseph Whittal is a charge of both the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. Now, the security agencies enforcing the lockdown of Greater Accra to contain the spread of COVID-19 intensified their checks on Thursday, in the process frustrating a number of exempted workers going about their businesses. The officers have, however, argued this has become necessary as some non-exempted persons are simply refusing to obey the stay-at-home order. Joy News' Joseph Akabli this morning spent some time at the Tesano checkpoint and has come through with this report.
You will not go. I'm going to take medicine with my wife. That is not the issue. That's not the issue. Somebody was about going to the hospital with ID card. What's the ID card? A year, just said. I give birth at Atomic Community. Huh? Atomic. You will not go. Go back. So I'm going to take. Go back. Go back. Driver. Obi a unkuta. Eh, just say. Oya essential. Okan essential workers no. We don't know much for no much.
I'm here at Tesano, some few meters away from the police station. It's a police checkpoint where they're enforcing the restrictions that have been imposed by government. Some of the passengers in some of the vehicles had some concerns. Their point is that they had been turned away a number of times, and so they've had reason to spend more on the transportation fare than they usually do.
Some of you argue.
No, we are not shouting about. It's like we've been frustrated on the way before.
Yes, you have been stopped elsewhere. This is another checkpoint. You should cooperate with the security.
No, we are very happy with what you are doing. But the mistake you are doing is that they allow private cars. We've seen private cars that small boys are sitting inside. They don't ask them. But the trottoir, unfortunately, we don't have cars. So I have my pass. What you need? Let me come. What you need to do is to at least stop the car and then verify if I have the authority to go. But what they are doing there is they are returning all the cars back. So where am I going to get to Accra?
A private car with people on board. Did you know the policemen?
They never stopped them. Who were there? They didn't stop them at all. Nobody stopped them.
You are saying it.
Yes. Yes.
No, it's when we got to New Plan, the car were coming with, they stopped us. And then those of us who want to continue, they allowed us to cross to the other side. For this police lady, she saw me. And with my uniform, she asked me to even get closer to one of the military men to assist us. But the problem is, when they stop us, the cars that return, they don't give us change. So what happened is, as we get back on board, we pay another fare. So the aggressive here is that they are paying double fare, which is the problem to us. But what they are doing, we don't have a problem with it. But the double fare we are paying is the problem we are facing. That is our only plan.
You work in a health facility, you are going to work?
Yes, I work in a health facility.
The MTTD commander for the area has been speaking to Joy News, explaining why they had to turn away a number of their drivers and addressing the concerns that were raised by the passengers as well.
The drivers are compliant with the directives. Those who don't have reasons of moving from one place to another are advised to return to their base. That's why police are professionals. It is our duty to convince them, for them to know what is expected of all of us. It's all about teamwork and coordination. So if somebody is not getting things right, it is up to you, the security officer, to induce the people for them to know the reason why this exercise is ongoing. Ghanaians should be able to cooperate with the security because it is due to their, I may say, due to their interest. If we should organize one point, what of the other cars which normally comes from any other route. So if you are from Amasaman coming and you stop at No Plan, don't think that's the only checkpoint. There's another checkpoint at Old Station, as well as here, Abeka Junction, and so on, for their own interests and for the interest of the masses. So people shouldn't have perception that why are they being stopped? Why are they not? They shouldn't complain. They should complain with the police.
This is the situation at Tesano. Strict enforcement of the restrictions imposed by government. For Joy News, my name is Joseph Akable.
And Maxwell Agbagba also visited the Weija and Kaswa checkpoints and reports some essential workers had a tough time accessing public transport for work.
Another checkpoint here at the Weija toll booth. What happens here is that security station here will screen all passengers who are made to get out of any commercial vehicle they are traveling in. Their identities are checked. But those who do not have any important reason to be out there and are non-essential service providers, they are made to return home. For those who have good reason to be out, they are allowed to continue their journey. But some passengers think that this exercise is inconvenient. They say that they have to drop many times on the road to pick other vehicles to continue their journey. I've been speaking to the Weija MTTD commander, and he's been explaining to me how the exercise is going on here.
Actually, as you can see, we are making sure that anybody who is not supposed to cross to the other end wouldn't be allowed. However, I know there are some essential workers who has to be allowed to go and perform their duties. We allow those who are supposed to be, but if you are not supposed to be allowed, we wouldn't let you go. Oh, sorry for the inconvenience, but as we all know, as the situation demands, that's how we are working.
Conspicuously missing here at the Weija toll booths are the sellers who usually line both sides of the road to do business. All of them complying with the directive to stay home. The only thing we find here are thick layers of polythene bags they have used to cover their wares. All of them staying home and complying with the directive to be at home. This is the Kaswa news station. It looks virtually empty with no activity going on here. Just 2 vehicles parked here with their drivers not working. Well, some potential passengers I've been speaking to have been complaining about the situation.
Actually, we came very early in the morning. To get a car was very difficult, so we walked to our junction and picked the taxi. Even we were not allowed into the market. So we alighted far away and we walked to the market.
It's difficult. It's difficult. It's difficult getting a trotro taxi going out. Yeah.
It's very difficult. And when you're picking a car, they add more of the charges because they have to pick 2 people. So it's very difficult. And sometimes when you're going back, you have to pick a drop-in. And maybe if you're not budgeted for that, how can you go to your house? That's why it's very, very difficult for us.
It's not just passengers who are affected by this directive. The taxi drivers here also are complaining. They say they've been here for hours without any passengers coming closer to them. It has also affected their sales. I've been speaking to some of them here.
It has really affected our business because right now, according to the law, we have to take 1 passenger at the front, 2 at the back. So it reduces our income. And it's really affecting the taxi business. So there's nothing we can do about it. Since we are also trying to help and protect the masses. So we just have to abide to the laws of the government so that we can contain the spread of the virus.
It's normal, but nobody for the street. But tell you that they work. But sometimes if they go and block the road, they go to another place. Then you come back to the station.
3 days ago, there were homeless headquarters on the streets of Tudu struggling to get out of Accra in time to beat the lockdown deadline until they were busted. Their story has since changed. Apart from having a place to lay their heads, they have mosquito nets to ensure sound sleep as well as to cover them and their children. PSA Nanea Asafo was there on Wednesday when NADMO visited the state shelter for the 100 previously stranded people. He tells their story in the following report.
She could not look me in the eye as she narrated her ordeal these past few days. Tears rolled down her cheeks. The attempt to go back home in the wake of restrictions imposed by the president has been full of frustrations.
Our woes were many at that point. The vehicle was low on fuel, the car was faulty, and our driver had been beaten as he tried to smuggle us out of a car.
I met Nafisa again on Wednesday afternoon at her new sleeping place, a shelter that had been provided by government. She was not crying this time. Rather, she was beaming with smiles and full of praise.
I'm truly relieved now. For the past 3 days, my mother has been sobbing bitterly. Today I told her to stop crying. The battle is over. Government has come to our aid.
Even though she slept rough on the first day, that has changed. She's benefited from NADMO's relief items, which includes mattresses, mosquito nets, and cups. Director General of NADMO, Eric Ajiman Prempe, said the move was only part of a big national agenda.
Ashanti region, where there are other places also, we have identified some other places, so we're going everywhere. Wherever we find Ghanaians who, as a result of this lockdown, are in dire need, we need to give them relief, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Cynthia Morrison, highlighted the need to enforce the rule on social distancing due to the high numbers.
The adults are 47. With their children, we are getting to close to 100 or so. But the only thing is that a mother will sleep with a child. And we are showing them how to do the social separation. So that if the mother's head is facing this way, the child will face the other way so that they don't inhale, the things from each other.
For Nashira, another porter, the goodies they received were too good to be true.
We didn't even have water to drink. Upon arrival here, we have been fed. There's enough to drink. We've had our baths and visited the washroom free of charge. It had been 5 days since I last had a bath. We're truly grateful.
Oh, 5 days. 5 days.
She wore a broad smile, something she had not done in a long time. PSA Nana Yaosafo, Joy News.
A Paris vendor met her untimely death when a car crashed her to death. The driver of the Hyundai Elantra Saloon veered off the road and ran into 28-year-old Suwaiba Jibrila, killing her instantly at her porridge joint. One other person who suffered injuries is said to be responding to treatment. The culprit, identified as 29-year-old manager of West Africa Warehouse at Ahonjo, Elizabeth Atakuma, has been placed in police custody. Love FM's Rasta Sasari Donko has more.
Residents of Addis Ababa have broken the lockdown protocols this afternoon to come to this scene and come out in their numbers, all because tragedy has occurred right here where I'm standing. Now, this vehicle, which is a Hyundai Elantra, just lost control coming in from this end and crashed a young woman who was selling cocoa right here at this spot, killing her instantly. Now you can see the vehicle in your shot there. It lost control from this end and crashed a woman right here at this spot and climbed up over there. Now what you see here in this particular tricycle are the remains of what was at this particular scene. So you could see remnants of the bread she was selling, the umbrella, the silverware that she was using to sell the cocoa.
We tracked one of the customers of the cocoa seller who survived the crash. Wafa Francis spoke to Love News.
Private car ba ku fi kroma eba na ka ni dispute pa ti de hu an se ebu afa ba bi eton koko no na be boy yen ade kogu from osro
ti bom sa no dia na wo hu yi
te mi an se makoto from e ba bi na koko ra no so kwa share car na se ti ko fo ba wona omo ba ye na brother ba ku tu taxi na minimum no na me ye kakra na me man be so mi mu na etna taxi no mu na ko hospital.
So he says he was purchasing the local porridge, so she was standing very close to the cocoa seller who is now deceased, and all he saw was that the vehicle had lost control and was coming at them at top speed, and at that point it hit the two of them. He rolled onto the ground and he saw that the cocoa seller went under the vehicle. At the family house of the deceased, her mother speaks highly of Suweba as the one who takes care of her.
She's the one who takes care of me. All her brothers are caring for themselves. Today, I asked her to stay home, but she said cocoa sellers are allowed to sell if only customers will buy and will take it home. Why would Dave not take me instead?
Police have detained Elizabeth Atakuma, driver of the car, as they investigate the cause of the accident. The security task force had forced the crowd to disperse at the time our news team was leaving the accident scene. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaridonko, Kumasi.
We'll take a break on Joy News Prime. When we return, there is more in business.
Hello again and welcome back to business. Some oil marketing companies in Kumasi are yet to reduce prices of fuel despite drop in the first pricing window of April. This is due to the significant fall in global crude prices. Checks by my colleague Prince Apia at some fuel stations revealed prices are unchanged.
No intercity movement of vehicles and aircraft for private or commercial purposes for the areas of the restrictive measures, except for vehicles and aircrafts providing essential services and those carrying cargo. Riders of motorbikes are not allowed to carry any additional person. And in any event, only persons involved in the food value chain can operate in the markets during this period.
Although eateries and restaurants have been exempted to operate during the 2-week lockdown period, they can do that under the condition they operate takeout services. In this regard, some restaurants depend heavily on services of dispatch riders to deliver food packages to customers. However, the operators say security checkpoints set up in various parts of the capital are posing a challenge to courier service providers. President of the association, Kwame Bekwin, explains that their services are essential to the survival of restaurants in this crucial period.
Looking at the President's directive in connection with e-commerce business and the full value chain services, we realized that courier companies can still operate because looking at the social distance and movement in connection with the partial lockdown, courier companies are supposed to operate during this period. And as if they are operating and we are facing challenges with the police, I mean, people have ordered food and it takes about an hour, 2 hours. The police will stop you. You have to wait with a lot of barriers and checkpoints. I mean, it becomes terrible. restaurants are losing business because of all these delays.
The association says in this lockdown period, members are now doing 30 deliveries per each dispatch rider in a day as compared to the previous 10 deliveries. For Joy Business, Karen Dudu.
So that was the National Courier Association of Ghana appealing to the security agencies implementing the lockdown directives to allow its members carry out their operation faster during the lockdown period. This follows complaints by some members of the association over how the process of delivering food to customers is delayed at various checkpoints. They say the situation is detrimental to the restaurant businesses. And so that was the story that was brought to you earlier that you saw. There. Back to our earlier story where some oil marketing companies in Kumasi are yet to reduce prices of fuel despite a drop in the first pricing window of April. This is due to the significant fall in global crude oil prices. Checks by my colleague Prince Apia at some fuel stations revealed prices are unchanged.
We must expect some relief. Reduction in prices are yet to reflect at the pumps. First stop was Benab Oil, where prices for both diesel and petrol remain at 4.54 cedis per litre, having reviewed last week from 5.25. At Union Oil, the prices have reduced to 5.12 per litre for both diesel and super. GOIL is the only company to have reduced its prices as at the time of filing this report. Diesel and petrol have reduced from 4.82 and 4.80 per litre respectively to 4.32 per litre flat. Nanamo is the manager at the Maxima branch of GOIL.
4.30.
And then I'll be careful when sending prices and say,
oh, the worker say. So the
price is now 4.32 from 4.80.
4 times.
The government has really done well. From January to date, fuel prices have been reduced 4 times. But what happened today is really huge. Because of the lockdown, most of the consumers are home. But we hope the consumers will enjoy the reduction after the lockdown.
Oh, there, Ubia Amra Goy. Go there, any idea? To be Amra.
Over here, the prices per litre of both the diesel and super still 4.81. Prices are yet to be reduced. Meanwhile, some drivers, though unaware of the expected price change today, have been anticipating the impact on the operations.
I don't see nothing about it, but still, the price we buy and we know go back to this morning. I hear from news, but I don't see any sign.
Okay.
So this morning I go buy petrol. So I see the old price now. I don't see any change about that.
And you didn't ask them why the prices have not come down?
No, I didn't ask them.
Why?
But I asked them, but they didn't tell me anything. I don't know, say maybe not come or it come, I don't know.
Are you excited about it?
But if I check the price, the same price, nothing come down. Okay. The same old price now.
But if it comes down, would you be happy about it?
I'll be happy because they're working on, now it go down. So if it come down, it will help us. So.
Maybe I know Pia and I drive about Eka, but one can't figure now.
I only heard about the reduction this morning. We thank God for the reduction because this is the only benefit we drivers get from the government, reducing fuel prices. Now, both car owners and we drivers will live in peace. In the wake of the coronavirus pandemic and its impact on commercial activities, and with the reduction of prices today, this will mean a lot to them. Officials say prices will change at most of the pumps later today. Prince Apia reporting.
And crude oil made a slight gain today to sell about $30 per barrel. Details in the Commodity News Update.
Yesterday, I gave myself 10 over 10 for my exploits. Today, we'll see what I give myself also. Thank you for staying with us here on Joy News Prime Time for the sport. And in the wake of the COVID-19 global crisis, we are seeing more reaction from the Ghana Premier League. The question is, will it resume soon? Are there any plans? Well, whatever it is, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, board member for Heart of Oak, says that he's expecting keener competition after football bounces back.
I think if you follow the league carefully, you can see that it's becoming very interesting. Teams have been very competitive. You don't see any sort of foul work being done by any team at all. And I'll tell these new converts or whatever you call them, these new boys or girls who are so interested in football now, that they should not lose hope at all. I am very, very sure that when we start, the window has now been opened, so there might be new entrants as far as some of the clubs are concerned. And we are going to see a very competitive football that definitely will draw all our former viewers to the various stadia across the country.
Okay, so several governments are announcing stimulus packages to help their citizens deal with the impact, especially economic, of COVID-19. The government of Ghana, as you know, through the finance minister, went to parliament and let us know that quite a bit of money has been put out there for you and I and people who also need it to benefit. Now, the Ghana Football Association are asking the government to remember them. The GFA boss is calling on the state to include football clubs in the stimulus package. And you guys have been reacting to it. We put it on Joy News. And quite interesting reaction. David Velocity Ratio Akwando says, how much have the GFA members contributed to fighting COVID-19? My friend, the money is geared towards COVID-19 and not for football reasons. We will all support if COVID-19 pandemic is over, and that you can convince the government to give you something, not in the era of COVID-19. And Ifwa says, when is the SEC paying us? Okay, so that's an unrelated matter. Chris says, how much did the so-called big clubs even make as a gate proceeds and to even count for their losses? And you open your mouth calling for a stimulus package. Hey, let's think of how to approach God to avert this calamity of COVID-19 and stop disturbing our ears, I beg. Mensa Africano says, it's very important to include the football clubs in any government stimulus package. And I can tell that people are not happy with that with the replies there. Dramani Abubakar says, hey, Mr. GFA President, as for this, withdraw the statement. We are dying and you are thinking of football. Please search for sponsorship for the clubs, not Ghana money now. Right, the whole of this week, we have been hearing from the GFA General Secretary, Prosper Harrisonado, on various matters. Today, he is speaking on yet another subject.
We realize that, look, having come back, it may be difficult to get a full sponsorship, like a title sponsorship. And so we were dealing with going through the categories and getting some off. Because any category will give you something that will take something off your expenditure list. So assuming we get a sponsor for referees, then that takes care of the referees, and then that expenditure item is taken, you take it off. That is the kind of approach we're going. When we build the patronage, then we can get the title sponsorship. But there are discussions ongoing about title sponsorship as well. But with some of these things and the current environment we operate in, you will need to get board approvals. And so there were companies who were talking to us who said, okay, I like the way you are going, I like the vim you've brought, I like the new business approach and everything. Would come back. We are okay with all the things we've discussed. We'll need our board approval and come back to you. So that's where we are.
So that's about it for the sport for now. Tomorrow we have one of our more interesting videos and I'll show you. I'm Gary Al Smith. The news will be wrapping up shortly. Enjoy your evening.
Time now for the interactive segment, and you may have been following the news that Reverend Titi Ofer gave out his 100 capacity building to be used for isolation center for COVID-19 patients. Well, the people in community 18 in Tema have been protesting against this, and for that reason, Reverend Titi Ofe has had to withdraw that offer and says he will support government in another way. We posted that on Facebook and that has generated a number of comments. I'll start with Alhaji Yusuf Hussein. He says, I think pastors should focus on their poor members across to other churches to donate to them than donating into the COVID-19 fund. I don't think institutions will be willing to donate to the church, and once they fall their members at this crucial time, they feel it may be difficult to count their blessings after the dust settles. Marcus Lawson says, lessons to be learned: never take people for granted because you think you can value and consult others in matters that can potentially impact on their health and safety. And Adai Wilson says, if it is the hospital that he is building, will the neighbors there say they were not consulted, so they will not allow it? Some may have 1 or 2 dangerous diseases more than COVID-19 with them. Festus Owusu says there are quite a number of misconceptions about this disease, which puts so much fear into people. Listening to one of the aggrieved residents of the area, he avers that the disease could be airborne, hence their resistance to the offer. I don't know. I mean, and there's more of that message there. I know say Free Edusa said they will live in proper isolation should any of them get infested. What kind of jaundice thinking is this? Thanks to the man of God for doing his part. I only weep for those who forced him to withdraw his kind of justice. A lot more of your comments are there. Israel has been looking at those comments. Israel, what are the people saying on Facebook?
Yeah. All right, so I have the story having to do with the electricity company of Ghana. It's urging its customers to use the ECG Power app. So there's a lot of debate. We posted it about 2 hours ago, and there are quite a number of comments. So we start with Derek Nati, who says, when at all are we going to get things right as a country? This app isn't working. Work on it before you come out with such public pronouncements. Yeah. I've personally tried it severally, and it's not working. I called the office, and they told me to unsubscribe and later subscribe. I did exactly so, but it's still not working. Then there are others who come on this thread, and they say it's working for them. So Joseph says, Derek Nati, it works with new meters introduced by PDS. Kwame says, then try the USSD. And then Makafwe says, get a working phone, sir. The app is one of the most responsive apps in Ghana. And then Edwina Kwashi also comes, you are not alone, oh, my brother. Anytime I tried it, it always says application down. Patricia Doe says, are you using the smart meter? If yes, then it should work for you. I have been using it since last month. Just bought credit last Tuesday. And then Patricia again comes in and says, simple app, is download fast too. Let's keep and go to Musa, who says, I tried using the app several times, but it isn't working. I sent an email to your customer rep, and I was told to uninstall and install later. I did that, but still. And Abraham says, work on your app because it's not working. So it appears it is working for some, it is not working for others.
We've also been celebrating frontline workers, and on Joy News' Frontline, which sits on the pulse, people have been commending the frontline health workers who are risking their lives to contain the COVID-19 disease. Listen.
Indeed, let's continue to applaud our frontline health workers. That'll be all for the bulletin from home. I'm handing over to you, Aisha. This is Israel Live.
And I'm Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for watching. For more news, log on to myjohnline.com for all the updates. PM Express Business Edition comes up shortly with George Riafi. Enjoy the rest of our program.